Our generation, the future, wants to help fix it and make our planet livable for the future generations.
We're looking forward to submitting to the Natural Hazards Plan next year.
Jenna, I'm Will. I just wanted to explain the banner a little bit. So this is an art project they've been working on for the last few weeks. And they've been invited to put anything they like on here related to Tasman's precious environment. So we've got the river as the centerpiece and several environmental scenes to, spread awareness of the issue and how much they care about it. So thank you.
That's outstanding. Max, have you got some photos, or I think someone else would like to get a photo before we? We look forward to their submissions next year on that. Can you make sure you get a photo of that before they go, of their banner?
Does anyone else want to say anything about the students?
Well, thank you very much. That's outstanding. And we look forward to your submissions next year when we're doing our hazards plan change.
Just want to say thank you guys for the opportunity to be involved with this program. And it's been really great working with these students. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll just let, we've got a couple of councillors at the back that will want to take their seats. And I want to acknowledge we've got Councillor Greening on Zoom. All right, so if we move to reports, I've got my chair's report. I'd like to take that as read, but you just note the changes that are going to come to us from the government. And I think Barry Johnson deals with more in his report, and so does Lisa in hers. But that letter of the 14th of October, significant changes coming in national policy statements, which will certainly affect how we do things. So would someone like to move acceptance of my report? Councillor Dowler. And seconded Councillor Butler. Oh yeah, we'll do that. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. So I got slightly out of order there. We've just got the minutes to approve as well. So we've got the open minutes of the 3rd of October. Someone who is present like to move, they be accepted as a true and correct record. Councillor Kittermont, seconded Councillor Butler. So you can do that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And the confidential minutes of the 3rd of October. I'm looking around the room for someone to nod. I've got Councillor Kittermont again and Councillor McKenzie, seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.
Just got one thing to say about that.
Right.
But just
Councillor
just to make the point that those confidential minutes, which related to plan change 79 are now available publicly because the consultation has now opened. And that was what council voted, that when consultation opened, they'd be made public.
Mr. Ritt.
Yeah. Just before we move on to Barry's report, you'll see the environmental policy activity. Sorry, I'm a wee bit hoarse from singing last night. Environmental policy activity report and the strategic policy activity report, they're slightly different from normal. And what we wanted to do was give you a flavour of what we as a team, I mean, everyone in this room has worked on and achieved this year, and what you've got coming in, I feel for what coming next year. Because guess what? There's elections October next year, so there's quite a bit to get through. So you'll see the flavour slightly different, but it shows the enormity of the work that we as collectively of a team have achieved in the last 12 months. So Barry, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, through the chair. So my report tries to outline all the key milestones, all the work we've done this year. And I'd certainly like to thank the council around the table for your input. You've had a huge number of very challenging and very technical workshops and a lot of information to get through. So we really appreciate your engagement in that and the questions and the challenges that you give us through that. So thank you for that. I will take the report as read. Happy to answer questions. I guess the only thing I'd note is going forward with the government's kind of ambitious work program, it seems that we're getting signals that may be slipping a little bit. They had signaled that we'd be getting a large package of material before Christmas. It now seems that's likely to be in the new year around national direction. Still not aware when the next resource management bill will come out. That's also scheduled before Christmas. But certainly the national direction package of what it is, 20 new or amended instruments is likely to be next year rather than this year. So anyway, happy to take questions. Thank you.
I'll just take questions in a second. So just note, normally we get those national directions in draft form beforehand. Is that likely to be the case again?
Through the chair. What we're hearing is it's likely to be a mixture of, I guess, exposure drafts and policy positions. So it's going to be a challenge potentially for our freshwater work, because we don't know whether we're going to see a draft instrument, draft NPS, or whether we're just going to see a list of policy proposals or policy direction. So it's really uncertain at the moment.
I just need to note that I've got an apology for lateness from Councillor Hill. She won't be here. And Mackenzie, and they're both here. Yep. All right.
We have online.
Online as well. Right. Councillor Butler had a question.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thanks. Barry, just in relation to the water conservation order best endeavours to notify make best endeavours to notify by the end of the year. How, especially in relation to, if you think there's a bit of slippage, how are we going to deal with that? We're going to communicate with the Minister. Do you think that's going to be straightforward, that there'll be some understanding there about our court obligations?
Yeah, honestly, given the recent law changes that the government put through, regional councils, including this council, are hamstrung in terms of notifying freshwater plan changes. The government's effectively preventing regional councils and unitaries from notifying freshwater plan changes. And the Mayor has written to the Minister outlining the issues that we have with being told to slow down, and these obligations we have under the water conservation order. We didn't get a response, unfortunately, but we have highlighted that with the Minister for the Environment.
Okay, thanks for that.
Any other questions of Barry at this time? Okay.
I'm just trying to catch up here, Chair. Apologies. Which report are we doing?
We've done the Chair's report and we're doing the Environment Policy Activity Report.
Okay,
Page 21. Yeah.
but are we only doing Barry's section of it or?
Yep, yes, we are.
Houston. I need to explain that Dwayne is away, so Alan will be presenting that, and he's in another session. So the chair alluded to the movement in the agenda earlier. So on your run sheet, you'll see that 7.6 is now the strategic policy activity report. So there's been a shift around of that item.
I don't get the run sheet. Only I do. So that's all right. I know what's going on. I'll lead them through it. Well, in theory. All right. Any other questions of Barry at this time? Councillor McKenzie.
Is Barry up to which page are we covering in the report, please?
It's up to page 30. Sorry, page 30, yeah. And it sort of goes over into 31 slightly.
All right, so if I could, Chair, just in terms of the comment on aquaculture, it says the final report for the stage 2 aquaculture review has been received from Stantec, and a copy of the report has been circulated to elected members. I don't recall seeing that. So how was that circulated?
Through the chair, from memory, I think it was the Friday update. It was circulated through that, but I'm more than happy to recirculate it if you'd like.
If you could, because I think I missed it. Deputy Mayor Bryant, good morning.
Good morning, Chair Mailing, welcome back. Just, and I'm a bit like Councillor McKenzie, just catching up a little bit, but just had a question, and I think it's within the section, let me know if it's not. Within Barry's report, it talks about 8 plan changes, and I'm just wondering how we're managing that, working on all of those, and if there's any sort of prioritisation around those 8 different plan changes. Barry.
Well, I'm aware they're on sequence, but I know that it's keeping Barry's team very busy.
Yeah, and that's some of the reason for the question. Is there a priority list? Because obviously there's some, they're all important, but do we need to prioritise them?
Through the chair, we're confident that we can manage those. We're juggling them, and some of them are at different stages. As you know, Plan Change 76 is at appeal stage. So while there is some work on that, the donkey work's been completed. We've got notification of deferred zoning. So it's again that the majority of the work is done until we prepare a hearing. And then we've got the big ones, freshwater and growth. But I mean, we have the 2 teams, the urban and rural team and the natural resources team. And they're doing a sterling job of juggling those. We couldn't take on any more, that's for sure. But we're confident that we can manage the workload that we have at the moment.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up question. Are we likely to get them all done within this term of council or close to it?
Through the chair, no. The Wakefield, the appeal, I'm confident we can resolve that this term of council. The Motueka West plan change should be completed, or the decision and the plan change should be operative, subject to no appeals. And deferred zoning, we're looking at a hearing for that one April. So certainly the decision and the appeal period would be over before next year's elections. But the other ones, no, they'll be going into 25, 26, 27 potentially.
Right. Okay. No, that's been helpful. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if we've got no other questions, someone Chair to move we receive the activity report. Councillor Hill. Seconded Councillor Butler. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Now, the next one is, it was on my list, speed management. Sorry, Lisa. Yeah. There's and this is a bit of a sad report, really, because of I want to acknowledge all the work that you two did and the team, and then with the stroke of the pen, it's got delayed, which is a bit sad, but that's the nature of the hierarchy of central government over local government.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. This report, the main purpose of it is to inform the committee of the changes to the speed limit setting rule and some of the consequences of that, and to then look at our process going forward. So just a little bit of background as to where we ended up in the speed management process. The draft rule, which was released earlier this year, required some specific speed limits that were implemented since 2020 to be changed and revert back to what they were previously. Now, there were no local roads included in that, but a few of our state highways. It also required other speed limits which were adopted by a speed management plan, certified by the Director of Land Transport, recorded in the National Speed Limit Register, but not implemented. So it allowed speed limits which had gone through that fairly lengthy process to remain. And all our changes that were in our speed management plan complied with that and were generally consistent with the draft rule. However, the final rule required those limits to be implemented by the 30th of October. And we had 4 weeks to do that, and we weren't able to achieve it. Now, Nelson had a small number of speed limits. They had 2, Mauripa Road and Cable Bay Road, which they were able to go through the process of putting the signs up and implement them in that time period, but we weren't. So the final rule also requires speed limits outside schools, variable speed limits outside schools, to be implemented by beginning of July 2026. But it requires consultation on any other speed limits, consultation and reassessment. And including a cost benefit disclosure statement, which is a reasonably simple process, but time consuming for the number of speed limits which we are considering. So staff recommending a staged approach. At the December 11 council meeting, we will be bringing a report requesting approval for the speed limits outside urban schools, approving a consultation plan for the high risk rural schools, and then in 2025, planning to implement the speed limits outside schools, approving the speed limits, the high risk rural road speed limits, and the base limits outside schools. And then in 2026 and beyond, implementing other speed limits. So that's a very, very quick outline background of where we're at, and happy to take any questions.
Well, I've got 2, so we'll start with Councillor Ellis and then Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm not sure if I have a question or a comment or whatever. I mean, it's infinitely frustrating. I've seen the amount of work that has gone into this and basically gone with the stroke of a pen, and it's quite heartbreaking. But what's the impact going to be moving forward to get these speed limits down? There's been a substantial amount of community consultation on these particular roads. Is that sufficient to move forward in this process, or do we have to redo it again for these roads? And what are the additional costs that are going to be involved in doing that, especially the speed management plans? Do you have any idea?
So through the chair, we will have to reconsult And because the consultation, there is a specific requirement that the consultation includes the cost benefit disclosure statement. So we have to do an estimate of costs and benefits, although there's not actually dollar values on them, and include that in the consultation material. So we need to go back and consult. We won't be doing we're not proposing to do the fairly extensive consultation we did previously, do a fairly pared back exercise with just one option that we're consulting on. And haven't looked at cost of that yet.
Thank you. Heartbreaking and so wasteful, but thank you so much.
Doesn't make for a good read. Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, through the chair. My question as regards to the options around the speed signs outside schools. Recommended staff option is option 3. Here's a line. No NZTA funding available for the more safe options. The option 3 that we've got there, I mean, when I've talked to the community, I've never heard anyone not support the best option possible outside schools. So that's the one place we have universal support for speed management, in my experience. So with the options, are we confident that option 3 will cover those high risk places sufficiently? I mean, we might not want static signs outside every intersection and corner because some are low volume roads, but will that option cover those key spots that we've worked so hard to make safer?
It's through the chair. What we're proposing is to start with the static signs, do some monitoring, and if the speeds aren't coming down, we will look at what else we can do to achieve it, which might include the electronic signs or might be some other traffic calming.
Okay. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't want you to take any of what I say personally, because I know that you're just the recipients of what has been an absolute debacle, quite frankly, with respect to speed limits. This has been a massive cost to our ratepayers, and to this point, we've actually achieved almost nothing. It's so incredibly frustrating. I want to understand a little bit more in terms of this cost benefit disclosure statement. So, but actually, so that I understand it properly, can you update me on what you think Waka Kotahi intend to do with respect to the Wakefield Hope State Highway?
Yes, through the chair, my understanding is that it is one of the roads that will revert back to the speed limits that were there previously. And I'm not sure, I understand there is something going to the board soon to discuss what they do with the specific roads. So they do have the option to consult with the community and get feedback from the community in order to leave it as it is. But I'm not sure if that's the process they'll be following.
Oh, so it's an option. It's not that they have to do it, whereas we have to do it. Goodness, that's funny, isn't it? So in terms of the cost, so are they required to do a cost benefit disclosure statement to actually revert that to 100 kilometres?
Through the chair, no.
Gosh, so they don't have to do a cost benefit disclosure statement, but we have to do cost benefit disclosure statements. So that's pretty odd, I have to say. So in terms of a cost benefit disclosure statement, what do we understand needs to be included in that cost benefit disclosure statement?
So we need to record the distance for the speed change. We need to record how many accidents have occurred over the last 5 years. We need to record the average number of cars using that road daily. I was doing a bunch of them yesterday, so I'm trying to recall all of the boxes. And then with that information, We also need to break down the types of accidents which have occurred. Is it fatal, severe, moderate, or no injury? And that will spit out a number about what the time cost will be for an additional speed, what will be the change in the mean speed, and what is the likelihood of the change for the types of accidents.
Interesting. So, this is quite a bit of work for even each one of these high-risk rural roads that we're intending to develop a consultation plan on. My inclination is actually, as a council, we should be seeking to understand a lot more why we have these requirements on us in terms of our local roads, but the same processes are not being applied to our state highways. I mean, I need to understand the logic for that before I think we should be committing resources to actually do this work on our local roads. Who's to say that something else is not going to change? Why don't we embark on all this work? We'll get so far, and then central government somehow is going to turn around and change its mind again. I mean, this is just what we've been dealing with. I've been involved in trying to change speed limits on some of our local roads from the time that I was first elected onto the council. That's 5 years ago, and we haven't achieved something yet. I mean, it's completely outrageous.
I don't disagree with your views, but those are the rules.
Well, we can decide what we actually do. And if we think that we're going to consume and waste a whole lot more resources doing something that produces something that might be changed, that choice is with us.
Make the comment that if we want to improve our speed limits, there's a set of rules that we have to follow, and they're dictated to us by central government. Simple as that. So we'll move on. I understand your frustrations. I've got Councillor Walker, then Councillor Greening, then Deputy Mayor Bryan.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I endorse the comments and the frustration around the room, because I too have sat here for 5 years and not been able to change a speed limit. The conversation that Councillor Dakey shared about, is that the best option? Because, we have got endorsement from our community that we want to be having our schools transport around in and out the safest that it can be. So we as a team have decided that you're going to go for option 3. But if that doesn't actually come about with the outcomes that we're wanting, we'll review it. So I sat here not long ago listening to public forum about a certain piece of road around here where we put in these road management, reducing speed, things called speed humps. And there was a considerable conversation, and the chair knows what I'm talking about. And then we voted in to have these humps removed. I'm still getting it in the neck, as is Jamie, from certain people in our community about the wasteful spending and the cost that it took. I'm just concerned about when we go out with an option and we go, we will trial it. These are kids' lives we're trialing, yeah? These are straight outside our schools. Is option 3 our best option?
Comment?
In terms of the waste of money, I guess option 3 is the least cost, and so we're not spending more than we need to. So in terms of what we spend now, it is the least cost. If we want to do something more, it will be a greater cost. So there's the electronic signs are approximately 40,000 a pair, versus 2,000 or 3,000 for the static sign. So the lost cost in doing it is comparatively small.
I appreciate your response. My response to that is, what cost do you put on a kid's life?
Mr. Ridd, you just had a comment. And before I go to Councillor Green.
I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Mackenzie's frustration. The challenge we got is, if we don't do this, it won't get signed off. I know we know that, but I just wanted to just really clarify that we've got no option.
Thanks for that. That's what I was aware of. We don't make the rules. Councillor Greenie. Good morning.
Morning. This is more a procedural question. I don't quite understand resolution in 2 and 3 there. From what I read, we're making a decision to receive a report and noting that a decision-making process will occur on the 11th of December. I do want to know why we're including words like support, which kind of predetermines the decision on the 11th of December, and wonder whether those resolutions are really necessary, because I don't understand why they're there. And perhaps resolution 4 should actually refer to the fact that near the end there that it says to give effect to the speed limit setting process and use of variable static signs, rather than use of resolution 2 and resolution 3, which predetermine our support for those that decision-making process.
Well, I think originally these were all parts of the previous speed plan, correct? Yeah, so we're just reinforcing what we've already done in the past. Your internet connection has not been good for the last month. You might want to turn your camera off at times when you speak, because we only got probably 3/4 of that. But
my question, since you didn't get it, was I don't understand why we've got resolution 2 and 3, given that the wording in resolution 4 could quite simply add at the end to give effect to the speed management process and static signage, variable signs. I don't understand why we're including words like support, which predetermines the decision-making that will occur on the 11th of December.
Yeah, well, that's your view. Bill, if you just like to comment.
What's the advice? Is that predetermining or not?
I don't think so.
So through the chair, in terms of the process, we're wanting to get some indication from this committee as to the direction you'd like us to follow before we go through the process of continuing to develop the benefit cost disclosure statements and producing a consultation plan to present to council at the 11th of December. So we just want to make sure that we're on the path that this committee is supportive of.
Look, I'm happy with the resolutions. We've been through this process. This is what the government is telling us we have to do. And there is got to be a consultation process next year anyway. So we'll go forward from that. So I'm happy. Any other comments?
The decision making for both these resolution 2s and 3s occurs on the 11th of December.
Yeah, well, so I'm going to move on
this
now.
Is not a decision report.
Yep. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is extremely frustrating, and I'm grumpy enough as it is this week without reading reports. That
you had a run-in with a cow.
Yeah, well, no, the cow ran into me actually. And it was a steer. Unfortunately, this is extremely frustrating for everyone, including Jane and Bill, who I want to thank for the work they've done. But yeah, this effectively puts us back a year. We've lost a year's work, and it's beyond belief how frustrating this is for not only us and the staff and the community that we've got to go through this process again. I noted Councillor Mackenzie's concerned about the Wakefield to Hope section of the state highway. At the regional chairs meeting on Monday, which Bill and I attended, Bill in person and myself by Zoom, even NZTA it appeared unclear from their representative, not email, James Cargill, who does the Lower South Island. Even he was unsure about the process going forward for NZTA. So that was frustrating as well, and seems like there's still a work in progress for them. And I think one of the things that is so frustrating is that we can't actually consult on all the roads at once, and that's why Bill and Jane have recommended those small number of roads for consultation or going to in the 11th of December meeting, where previously we did all the roads, so that's going to frustrate many in the community who particularly had their own roads that they thought that were pretty much done and dusted. It was just up to the council to make the decision, common sense prevail and get on with it. I have wondered at times if we should try pushing back on the minister, saying, well, look, we've gone through this process, our whole community's on board, supportive. Why can't we do what we want to, rather than having to relitigate it or rehash it all, which is going to take multiple years. So that's just something I wondered if Bill or Jane would respond to that question around, is there any possibility to avoid this by even if it meant the mayor getting in the minister's ear next time he goes to Wellington.
Bill, any comment, whether it's worth writing a letter to the minister?
Well, I'd like to go and do something else, but
Yeah, through the chair. There's always the option of approaching the minister. His public statements to date have been very clear, and I'm not sure how effective that would be, but that does remain an option for council.
We could leave that on the table for the deputy mayor to discuss with the mayor to see if he thinks it's worthwhile. Are people happy to do that? I'm getting nods around the table.
yeah, when you say, do you mean leave the item on the table, or?
No, just how we approach the minister, whether a personal approach is better than a letter. To my view, a personal approach would be better than a letter, because I do remember the minister visiting the mayor before the election and spending a bit of time in our district. Councillor Mackenzie, you've got a comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair. Look, the fact that we went through the same consultation process as Nelson City, and because they had 2 roads and they were able to quickly get the signs off the back of the truck and put them in before the 31st of October to actually implement it, we had more and we weren't able to do that. And it actually buys us into doing a whole lot more. I just think that's a ridiculous situation, to be perfectly honest. And so, I mean, I would like to propose that this committee resolve to actually write to the minister and explain that situation, and particularly see if we can't get a different outcome for these high-risk rural roads.
Well, if that's the direction, we'll draft something up. Come from the chair.
Yeah, happy to do that. I need, we'll put that motion just quickly now. All we have to do is say, we would, Gavin, if you're able to write this down, a letter to the minister explaining our position and what we'd like to do. So that's moved by Councillor Mackenzie.
So through the chair,
we're allowed to do that?
Yeah. Through the chair, we can just add that as point number 5 and then move it all as one. Just for
I'm happy with that.
Process.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Bryant, anything else to add?
Well, I'm just wondering, in light of Councillor Mackenzie's resolution, if we should leave the others that lay on the table for now. It seems contradictory to say that we'll write to the minister, see what his response is, and then move the other resolutions. I don't see any great urgency for them, other than considering that we're going to reconsider them on the 11th of December anyway.
I think that would delay things. That's what the information I'm getting from staff. So, so to me, it's a 2 votes. It would be easy to change it if we don't, but I think we need to do this, follow this process, and write to the minister. That would be my view. I'm going to move on now to Councillor Kittermont. I've got a list, so I think we will be adjourning somehow. We won't get done.
Through the chair, fully support what Councillor Mackenzie and Councillor Walker points they're making there. I believe we should be pushing back. I agree with what you're saying here. 2 things. Surely we're not the only local authority that has these issues. So what are the local authorities, maybe combined with the local government? What do they say about it? Is it, I'm getting blank faces here. Is there anybody else in the big wide world of transporting, transport engineers that have problems like this with the government? And the second thing I wanted to ask about is these electronic signs. Every time I see a price for it, it's gone up. It was 38, it's now 44. Is there no competition in the market to manufacture these electronic signs? Is this the best price we can get them for? So that's the two questions.
Good morning, Jane. I'll answer the second question around the procurement of signs. So before the new rule was published, we had begun speaking to suppliers. We'd put together a tender document to invite suppliers to give us their best prices for a certain number of signs, but we've had to put that on hold because we don't know how many signs, electronic signs, we want to procure. The fewer you buy, the higher the price. So we have built a lot of uncertainty into the cost estimates that we've put in front of you.
Councillor,
My other question about,
Yeah.
well, what are the local authorities in the same boat, and can we join and take a joint decoy to the members of parliament?
I just think we need to maybe run some of this in parallel if we're going to do it. There's some things we need to move on here, and my advice to you is that would probably delay if we don't just run it in parallel. Let's do the lobbying. Let's have the conversation with Minister. Let's raise the issue, but let's our advice to you is carry on doing what we're proposing in here. I might just add that a large number of RCAs, including ourselves, did submit or provide us a written submission to the government on the draft speed limit rule. I think 83% of RCAs disagreed with the rule. So, collectively we've had a voice already to tell the minister what we thought. I guess what changed now is that the final rule is actually worse than the draft that we submitted on. So maybe getting our point across again would be cathartic for us, but I'm not sure it would have an effect.
Yeah, having seen this minister operate, I doubt it'll have any effect at all. Councillor Dowler, and then I've got 4 others, and then we need to move on.
So I'll bring my last comment that Jamie just pointed out first, that the more you buy, the cheaper they get. Well, we've got Nelson, we've got Marlborough, we've got Buller all next door. We should be contacting them and asking, how many signs do you want, guys? Going to them and saying, we need 100 pair. So what's your best cut now, instead of just buying 10 as a group? Because this individual thing just annoys me that they can screw us over because we're only buying 5 instead of 10. If we're buying 50 instead of 10, you've just said it gets cheaper. So I think a bit of coordination with the neighbouring councils will be good, please, if you can do it. If not, well, we just pay the bill, don't we? My other concern is number 16 on page 40, the process of, or the list of the consultation plans. The first one on the 11th of December is being a report coming to the council, asking for the approval of the proposed process, and it's consultation for high-risk roads and the variable speed limits outside urban schools. Then later on down the track, it goes about consultation and base speed limits outside of rural schools. I'd actually like to see the high-risk roads push back a bit and bring the urban and rural schools together, because we pretty well know that the minister wants the rural, all schools to be sorted immediately. 11th of December is pre-school holidays, where the teachers should still be there with a bit of luck and get a newsletter out to their community. In mid-January, everybody's still on holiday, including half the council. So I just disagree with that time frame there. I think the two rural and urban schools should be done first to get them the first cab off the rank, because we've heard from Ngātamoti and how urgent the speed limits are to be addressed there. And no doubt there'll be other schools feeling the same. And then go onto your high risk roads and stuff like that, because some of the, we're not talking about with Q3 decide on further speed limit changes, implement the changes on the high risk roads and rural speed limits outside rural schools. That's a year away, just about. I don't find that acceptable after what we had presented to us through the consultation.
There, it is actually quite a short list of roads. So that's why we put the high risk ones with the rural schools. So we didn't want to have like a 3-stage approach with consultation. We know the community is going to get tired of hearing about speed management. So if you spread it 3 ways, and I'm not sure if we'd have all of the material absolutely ready to go on the 12th of December if you said, let's do it before school closes, because schools are closing on about the 17th. So I'm not sure if you gain time by starting then. And because then we're supposed to have 6 weeks consultation. I mean, we can drag it out to later into February and make it longer, but I'm not sure if you gain much by having it and starting earlier in December.
Well, my main risk is the rural schools being bobbed out. When pretty much everybody driving around town, when you get 10,000 adults dropping kids off at schools, you're not doing 50k through the traffic. But on a rural road, people coming from Christchurch and all that stuff, they don't slow down going past the Ngātamoti school. They just down that road, 100k, let's go. So that's my point, is that I would prefer the schools to be addressed first, rural and urban. And I don't see how you have 3 stages of consultation. Maybe I'm not reading it right, but I'm just saying alter it. Push the high risk rural roads back a bit, 1 step, bring the 2 schools together for the first cab off the rank, and then go from there. And that way there, Jamie can then order his variable signs if we need them outside all the schools. And if we've got to include a couple of rural schools, we catch for them at the same time.
We've also got the situation where we've got at least 3 schools on the high risk roads. So we've got Ngāti Moti, which is on that Motueka Valley High. We've got Lower Mutri, and we've got Appleby School. So that's why we've put them all together. I mean, we could start the consultation earlier, but we'd still be starting it in the middle of December, Then same as last time when we had consultation that started kind of November-ish, we were asked to go longer over the Christmas period. So we'd still be having a long consultation period. So I'm not sure if we can prepare the material.
Starting to get frustrated, now you're saying that the speed limit parts of school that restricted speed limit should be in coordination with lowering the whole road. Let's just concentrate on the school and bring the speed limit for the road down later. I have an issue.
Okay, I'm sure that the staff have heard your message and they can look at their plan. So that's where we'll go. So we'll move on. Councillor Hill.
You'd think there'd be nothing more to say about this, but there seems there is. I think the cathartic process might be here, Jamie, perhaps not in our letter, but I just find it incredibly disrespectful, really. And I think part of what's coming out of our co-governing coalition is around austerity and being not wasting money, not wasteful spending. They could add, let's not be wasteful around processes. So it's pretty disheartening, and I think it's disingenuous at best, and I think it's, it doesn't even align with your own ideology, really, or ethos, if there is one there. So that's incredibly frustrating, and I just find it really disrespectful and immature approach, actually. But what I'd like to know is how we approach our comms around this, that when we're letting people know it's quite complicated. If someone down the road from me was to read through our resolution, it would be like, what the hell's going on there? So the comms about this out to the community in the district needs to be really clear to make clear what's happened here. And I think the sentiment in the room needs to be included in that expression. So our comms are always very nice and, you know, we don't tend to say too much about frustration we might have. And I'd encourage that we do. We don't need to be so rude, but, you know, I think it's important to say that council has clearly been expressed here today, is very frustrated at this change that we're required to do. That's what I'd encourage. Thank you.
Right, so we've got that message. Councillor Green, you've got a question? And
Yes,
then I've got Cheryl, Chris and Alice, and then we're going to move on.
The resolution would be useful to see on screen, no doubt for the public as well.
We'll do screen share. We've got it up on our screen, but we need to make sure it's shared with you.
So I can't comment it until I've seen it, but I do support a letter. I do wonder whether there should also be an invitation for the minister. No doubt they're probably looking for an opportunity to attend a joint committee to hear.
Certainly invite him. He does come here occasionally, so
yeah. So I think we should add that to a letter, an invitation either to a joint committee or a Tasman District Council meeting. Given Nick Smith seems to be a whisperer in the ear of the minister, perhaps that's an opportunity also to get some movement here towards where we want to be directed. And speaking of whispering in ears, it's also just an observation. Congratulations really to Lindsay McKenzie on the appointment of being an observer to Wellington City Council.
Thank you for that, and I'm sure I can have that included in the letter. Councillor Shellcrest, and then Alice, and then we're going to put the motion.
Yep, frustration is obviously a good word. As a tradie, I hate doing things twice. That's another point. It's just a ballpark cost as well. And I think maybe that needs to be part of the story as well, just how much this has cost to get to this point. I mean, you don't have to give us an exact number, but that's my question, and just roughly how much all this work we've done and we've been involved in it as well. Just a ballpark number would be quite good to know.
Yeah, it's a lot of staff time, that's for sure. I'm sure they'll be able to give you that at a later date. Councillor Ellis, you're okay. So we've got the item 5, the letter to the minister. Would someone like to move? I've got a move of Councillor Shellcrest. Councillor McKenzie, would you like to second? Right. So you've all seen the motion, and it's been shared, screen shared.
Yeah.
All right. So Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much. Just in going down this path, I don't understand what that means in terms of the joint speed management plan with Nelson and Tasman. So they've done something, we've got to do something else. Do we still have a joint plan or don't we?
So through the chair, there are no more regional plans. So we have a joint plan which informs our direction, but has very little status at a national level or in terms of the legal.
Oh, through the chair. So that's interesting. So that changes the role of the joint so that's a change to the role of the Joint Transport Committee then? Because they currently have a role in terms of that overall speed management plan. So now does all of the discussions in terms of speed management just come back to us as a council as opposed to going through the Transport Committee?
Yes. Yes, that's will be the situation going forward.
Okay, that was not clear to me in terms of where we're at, but I understand it's a moving feast. So once again, yes, not a criticism.
Mr. McPherson.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I would observe that the joint regional speed management plan effectively becomes a strategy, and it's still the fundamentals of being consistent across our regions are still there. The what we've consulted with the community on and what they've told us about their vision of speed limits is still there, it's still relevant. So it's still a very valuable
plan or strategy, however you want to refer to it, to help guide future decision making by our council in its role as, I guess, speed limit setter and NCC respectively as their role. So, yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to think that the work that has been done on the joint speed management plan has no value. It really does. Yeah.
No, my point was about roles and accountabilities going forward. So that was really what was behind my question.
Yeah, so you're spot on that under the new setting a speed limit rule, that plan doesn't have a regulatory function, whereas it did under the previous rule.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's been moved, Councillor Shellcrass, seconded Councillor Mackenzie. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Right, so we'll move on. That took a bit of time, but speed management is always a difficult issue. So Lisa, next steps in land and freshwater plan change project.
Kia ora koutou. Through the chair, my report is looking at the process for the land and freshwater plan. I'm happy to take the report as read. I guess I'll just clarify the recommended option is to continue with the development of the draft land and freshwater plan and to come back to council in the new year for further direction on the remaining process once we have further clarity on the national directions package from central government. As Barry mentioned before, since I wrote the report, we have had some further contact with MFE staff. And I guess we're sort of less certain as to what we're actually going to receive and when regarding the national directions package. And particularly, we're uncertain when we're going to actually see an exposure draft of the National Policy Statement for Freshwater. But I guess I'll note that that doesn't change the staff recommendation for this paper. There's still a lot of detail work to go through to refine the draft in order to be prepared sort of when we do receive the new NPS to be ready for the new notification window that central government's given us. But it does mean that the estimated timeframes that I've put in terms of each of the options in the report may be at the longer end of those ranges in terms of it's very dependent on when we do receive not only the NPS but the other legislative changes that are affecting freshwater. But we can't really speculate any further than we already have on that one. I'm happy to take questions, but before I do, there is one small correction I'd like to make to the report, and that's at 4.25. And that is where it references the new Waikato Pupu Action Plan that's now available on the website. That's actually been named the Tākaka Freshwater Action Plan, and that's to bring that into alignment with the resolution that we had from Council in June of last year to have one action plan per freshwater management unit. And so those that are focused on addressing the key issues in each catchment, obviously this one is focusing on nitrate with relation to Waikato Pupu, but we've just sort of future-proofed the use of that action plan going forward as our priorities change over time. I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, to me, it's a question of timing. We need the information from central government, and that is frustrating. But I'm sure the Otago Regional Council are much more frustrated than we are, because they've gone down to the point of actually getting their plan notified and then being stymied. So for us, we want to make sure we don't waste any work, but we're able to adapt as the rules change, and that might mean some modifications for us. So does anyone have any questions of the staff? Councillor Kilmore.
Thank you. Through the chair. Page 45, clause 4.16. You've got gaps in information. How significant are these gaps? Are they just minor, or are they going to take a lot of staff time? Can we get the information? Is it, how big a problem is it?
They're relatively minor. An example that comes to mind is we discussed the issues around cleanfill and defining contaminated soils with respect to Tasman's background guidelines. So there's a bit of work for our environmental information team just to clarify that kind of thing. So it's not, they're not majorly large gaps to be filled. But obviously any time in terms of allowing the environmental staff to build that into their existing BAU work will be helpful.
Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies, it just took me a few minutes to get going. Just wondered if I may ask Lisa, just around the freshwater plan. Are we now still thinking we'll be able to get this completed, subject to obviously council government regulations within this term of council? Is that the plan, or I'm just getting apprehensive that if we get to mid-2025, it's going to be very hard to complete in this election cycle term of council.
It's hard to speculate because it is very dependent on when we do receive the MPS. It is increasingly less likely that we will get it completed in terms for this sitting council to make a decision on notification. And that does bring into play the extension of time following local government election. But I guess I will highlight that in terms of the recommendation for this report, it's to have a look at that again in the new year. So there is still the option on the table of seeking written approval from the minister to notify a plan early. But I think the council will be in a better position to actually make that decision in the new year once we've progressed the draft a bit more and hopefully had some further direction regarding the national directions package.
Right, thank you. Just to follow on, the extension of time you talked about around the local elections, what was that, to allow it to carry over the election period, was it? Or proposed?
Yeah, through the chair. It's largely taking into account sort of the shutdown in committee meetings across the election period and also the subsequent induction, particularly if we get changes in councillors. And also if we do get significant change, we'll obviously have to take the new council through a series of workshops to get them sufficiently familiar with the land and freshwater plan to actually make an informed decision on its notification. So that will add some further time to this process.
So just if I may, Mr. Chair, one last final question. So Lisa, would it have to look to make a decision around that sort of March to mid-year next year, wouldn't we? To decide progress.
Usually the last committee meetings are around that August period. So I think that would be the absolute final time we could get a decision.
Yeah, or make a decision that we go carry it over that election period may have to be a little before that, depending on progress from both us and government.
We're really reliant on government, really, and the changes that are coming. Because they've certainly signalled there's going to be some changes.
Yeah, I'm just apprehensive how long and how much that will take.
All right. If there are no other questions, are you happy to move the report, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I am.
A seconder, Councillor Butler. No other questions? Moved Deputy Mayor Bryant, seconded Councillor Butler. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Now move to the quarterly climate change update. Barbara, if you'd like to come to the table with your people.
You want to go to? Shall we?
Up to you, Barbara.
Okay, yeah. Apologies for Anna that she's taking a day off. So yes, I would like for everybody to take this report as read and to make the best of the short time that we have. I would like to just highlight 2 points. One, that it is now apparent in the last 6-7 months that there is significant changes are really coming into the adaptation, in the climate change adaptation space, and also into the emergency management space. So that we need to really watch out for this space in early 2025 and to see what kind of directions the government will be giving us, and these directions will be influencing our approach of climate change adaptation work that we're undergoing at the moment. Another piece of information that I would like to put to your attention, which is not yet part of this report, but will be part of the next one, but it's very appropriate, is that as we're speaking last week, the 29th United Nations Global Conference started in Baku, Azerbaijan, whereas all of the countries of the world are meeting. And this is an international forum where all the countries of the world meet and make decisions around climate change. And of in particular importance is the fact that this year is local governments have a very strong voice, and they've been advocating for whole of community type of approaches, youth type of approaches, system approach, and really to ensure that local governments have a voice and have a capability of influencing the decisions of their own governments. So this is just part of many of the submissions that we're making for us to have a stronger voice and have actually clarity from our government and investment in order to support the work that we're doing. So it's just further example of work that has been going on around the world. So on that, if you have any question, happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions? Councillor Dowler?
Thanks, Barbara. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've read a write-up in the paper, I think somewhere, or a paper or something, regarding methane becoming a gas that's turning out to be a lot worse than carbon dioxide in the upper atmosphere. So is that stuff coming through to you through the long forum, or hasn't it turned up yet?
Yes, absolutely. And so that we are, this is work that we're already doing, and we're working as well very much with the landfill, our landfill business unit on this, where significant type of abatement has happened in the last few years. And so we're looking at this so very strongly, hence the reason why as well within the waste, we're working as well on a new waste management plan as well that is looking at even abating further this kind of methane type of emissions. So yes.
Do you think we'll be able to influence the rest of the world that's burning methane, big flames all around the place, or are we just dealing with one or two in our country?
Yes, well, again, this is part of the discussions that are happening here at the global conference, and which is actually hosted by one of the most methane intensive type of countries in the world. So again, these are forums. Yes, it is at the attention of the world, these discussions. It's not, unfortunately, up to me what the outcomes of those global negotiations will be. But we are lobbying actually to ensure that us, from a local level, we don't have to bear the brunt of costs and impacts. So for that, we're doing our part for sure.
Councillor Butler?
Thanks for the report. My question was just in relation to the Resilience Explorer program, and I'm just aware of the amount of input that the community gave for that. People really did invest their time and energy in the community to making that program, hoping that something was going to come out of the end of it. And we just seem to be stalling indefinitely almost. Do we need to really put pressure on and get this tool activated and available to us? And I'd just like to have an update on that. And I'm also happy to move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. So we have had some delays into the development of this tool. since we're working with a startup company. And we went out several months ago now into the community to showcase part of the tool and do some community engagement to inform the regional climate change risk assessment. The tool as it stands is still in development. And so that we need to ensure within council that the data is robust enough in order to be able to be released and eventually enjoyed into the community. And it is as well a joint approach that we're taking with Nelson City Council. So we need to have as well an agreement, but both councils would like to ensure that the tool is robust enough and it informs in the correct way our communities. So,
Councillor, and as part of the team that's got to sign this off, until we're confident that that's accurate, we're not prepared to sign it off. So we've got some doubts at the moment still.
Well, so I just wanted to say that we've spent a lot of money on this way and the investment from the community, and it would be very disappointing if this is, you know, is there a chance this is going to fall over?
Well, it's got to work, so that's up for the staff to test it and make sure it is robust. I'll move on to Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through Chair. Thank you, Barbara. So this tool, are we the first joint council with NCC to actually step down this road? My first question.
No, sorry, Councillor. To answer your question, no, we're not the first one. There are a number of councils that have retained this consultancy to develop and work with them towards the development of this tool, and we are not the first off the cuff. Yeah.
So the area that we need to strengthen and get right before, as John said, we can pass it. Is everybody on the same journey with that, or is ours slightly different from others?
You mean other councils? Yeah. Well, yeah. I think that again, with all new type of technology, there is consensus within councils, and the councils that have embraced this tool of the value of such a tool in order for have a community that is informed and all that. I guess that a little bit of insurance of the effectiveness of these tools comes of the fact that it's very technical. And so that we don't wish to confuse our communities and with information that could be read in ways where that requires highly technical capabilities. And that's one of the things that we are at the moment exploring, whether the tool could be presented in a more friendly, so to speak, friendly type of way for the communities.
So Bob, I just wonder if I could just the question was, so Nelson are our partners and they're equally, both parties have got to sign off on this before it goes live. So we're not prepared for it to go live unless that data is accurate. So we've got question marks. Okay, so that's where we currently are. We're not investing any more funds in this.
Right.
Okay. So
but we weren't the first cab off the rank to put this in place. This question. Because it's an expensive learning curve if we can't mitigate.
I think we were probably, we weren't a fast follower, but we were probably at the front of it. And it's something that we don't tend to do normally. We usually wait for a while. So I think there's been a lot of learning from this. But I just want to ensure that you understand that we're not throwing good money after bad on this. There's a budget and no more was to be allocated.
Okay, so I appreciate that we as a council are taking on board the learnings, because I'd hate to think we've invested in something that we're still not able to roll out. That's one of my questions. Second thing is to acknowledge the mahi of the students that came in Mahana, Upper Mutri, Lower Mutri, and their banner. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of enthusiastic students in there. I guess I harp on at this quite regularly is where is MOE in supporting with those projects, because I note in your 3.23, we also support early childhood education initiatives. is the early childhood sector funding with any funds, or is this purely left for us as a council to continue to support what is really good stuff? But as I sit there going again, is that our core business when we're a council that financially is struggling?
I just want a bit of a crack at that. So you can make a call whether or not we continue with that or not. For me, this is broader than the climate change conversation, because what we're doing there is engaging with young kids, and they're the generation. If we can get them engaged in civic practices, which they, a lot of these kids have no understanding of what government is, they're suddenly getting an insight into what government is. And you saw them talking about natural hazard plan change. You need getting a younger voice in there, and we just don't get it around this table. So if that's the vehicle, I think it's good investment personally. That's just my take on it.
I'm not denying that it's not a good investment. My question is, are we collaborating and partnering so that we don't carry the entire cost?
No, it's the MOE is, I think we've said before, the MOE is not putting any money into this at all. It's time.
Teacher time.
Teacher
no
time.
money. And that hasn't changed over the 10 years I've sat around this table.
So my last thing is nice, good shoulds that we sat here with.
I take your point. All right. So I've got a mover for the report. Councillor Kidmont, you've got a question? And then we'll move on. And then Councillor Shalkris.
I'm happy to second if you've got a mover. Barbara, community adaptation planning through the long-term plan. Clause 3.37. Motueka master plan. You're going to do it through there. Motueka adaptation, I can see being a huge issue, and you're picking on quite a 5,000 population area. Why Motueka? Why not? Oh, I don't know. Mahua, not smaller. No, I'm just thinking here. This is a new concept. Adaptation is going to affect us all. You're starting with a population area of 5,000 people. I just wonder, would it not be better to start small and grow big, learn from the small mistake before you go into Motueka?
Sorry, I don't mean to jump in, Bob, because it's broader than the climate. There was a strong push from this council to start focusing on Motueka. So the adaptation is part of it, but it's that whole master planning, and we have learned from Mahua. That was the first cab off the rank.
Councillor Shalkris, and then it's been moved and seconded. I'd like to.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks for the report, Barbara. Really excited about this building waste trial. Are you happy with that 284 kgs per day? Is it more or less? That's one question. And the second one was obviously still on the community grants, and with the waste minimisation grants, we've had some really interesting things coming through as well, which I think is really great. But my question probably is the numbers on the building waste. I thought it might have been more than that, but just being in the trade. So yeah, just if you can give us a bit of feedback on that. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor. Yes. Okay. Well, the numbers can always be more ambitious. But this is a fabulous start of a pilot that we're doing. And so that I guess that, like in all pilots and in all trial, you start small in order to be able to, especially because we do have very limited resources as well, and to start even working very, very effectively with our partners so that everybody understanding what we're going to do. And then in time will be, now that we have actually a new tool that will allow us to forecast more ambitious type of emission reduction type of activities, we'll be able to inform our pilot with those kind of numbers. So we'll come back with you certainly. So it's a start, I guess. Yeah.
And just one other thing, have you had good engagement with the building contractors and good feedback?
Yeah. The work that our waste management colleague is doing, Cam, is it's part of the pilot. It's really building that initial rapport and with businesses, which is clearly half of the game, if not most of the game. And so that work, from my understanding, is proceeding brilliantly. And the working group that has been established is working very well. It is new grounds, as many things. And so that we're very, very pleased about the outcome so far. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we met Cam yesterday and he seems like a really motivated sort of guy. So thank you.
Okay, so the report to receive it has been moved by Councillor Butler, seconded Councillor Kittermont. No other questions. I'll put the report. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Barbara. Alan, you're next up in Dwayne's clothing. Just about. All right.
It was my process.
Right. Michael as well with you. Right.
Yep.
So we're starting on page 7, aren't we?
Certainly, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, councillors. As this is the last meeting of the year, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to, I guess, give you a picture of the work that you've done with our support through the year. So we've tried to present that. So, things that have been completed or we've made substantial progress on during the year. So hopefully that's a helpful picture to you and reminds you what you've done, because you tend to kind of keep going forward and forget to look back at all the things that we have done. So hopefully that is informative for you. In terms of the table of the projects, there were some comments last time about how we were dealing with the target completion dates, particularly where projects were delayed. So we've introduced a different protocol, which I might talk you through. So if we perhaps look at that table on page 13, and maybe we're just talking about the regional climate risk assessment and tools. So if you see that item's identified as delayed, and what we've done there is listed the previous target completion date in the third column and the new target completion date into the fourth column, so that you can see both what the target date was and what the new target date is. So our intention is to do that where, for the first time where we're showing you a delay, we will do that. And then the next time we will be just showing you the new target completion date and the red, green, orange based on that target date. So hopefully that will provide what councillors were asking for last time. I think the concern was where we put a new target completion date, you had no visibility of the old one. So trying to provide that. With that, I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
All right, people. So any questions of Alan? And just remember, you're eating into your cup of tea break from now on, because your next meeting starts at 11:30. And Councillor Kinmont and Councillor McKenzie. Oh, and Councillor Green. Kinmont, McKenzie and Green.
Thank you. Through the chair, I really appreciate what you're doing here, giving us the updates and showing us the old date and what's the new date gone to. All I can say is that really, really helps me in me doing my work. So if I could promote that with other project managers as well, and the changes of the dates, I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McKenzie.
Just a couple of points, Alan. So in terms of the review of the e-bus services, so I see the report talks about phase 1 reviews nearly complete, and we're sending data to NZTA, and that we're moving into phase 2. I just know because, public transport is so important to our communities, that I'd really appreciate actually getting some visibility of those reports. And, I know that some communities are talking about extra bus stops or not, and how do we, I don't understand how we engage with our communities to get information about what's working and what's not. So just to get a little bit more visibility of those reports, I would find that really useful. And then I'm just wondering about on page 16 of the report, talking about the Brightwater and Wakefield Catchment Management Plan. I understand if this you might not be able to answer it, but so the work's been delayed because one of the reasons is we've got questions regarding the accuracy of the flood model. So I don't know. I mean, can you give me a bit more information? I mean, we've got these flood model maps. We've gone out, we've shown them to communities, we've talked about them. So now we're saying we're not sure about the flood model maps. I mean,
for you, Mr. Chair, I'll ask Michael to respond to those two.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair. Yeah, those models are a little bit old, and there's new information coming through with calibrations and stuff like this to make sure the model is real. And basically, the government is changing what we should be looking to model with and at the guidelines. And so there's a little bit of work just to bring that back up to speed with our consultants. So that's where that is.
if I can, so the information, for example, that the public might access with regards to our current flood model maps online, are they the most accurate ones, or should we not be looking at those now because we're going to get some new ones? Because actually all the time decisions are being made about things which are being informed by the flood model map. So
yeah, through the chair again. Great question. Yes, things are changing. Models are changing. The way that the government want us to look at modelling and look at what return periods for floods is changing. So what we have, I wouldn't say is out of date, but we do need to decide probably around the table of what level of detail we go to out to the public. It is part of other pieces of work that is part of all of this. So there is more work to do. There will be more things coming back on what our flood modelling and to what level we do our flood modelling and put that out to the public. Obviously very crucial that we want to get that right. We don't want to be putting information out there that's wrong.
gosh, it's interesting, isn't it? It does kind of make you wonder whether the government might change its mind and, you know.
Now, Councillor Greening. And you used to work for the government.
Oh yeah, it's just in relation to 3.57 future work. I am a little bit concerned, and I've raised this in workshops as well, that the grants process review is taken so long. It was raised at the start of the triennium as part of reducing costs for the LTP, and given we are now again looking at trying to rein in escalating costs of this council, I would have thought we would be initiating and probably completing before June next year to rein in costs. So I hope that will be part of the financial considerations that the CEO indicated she would be looking at.
Sorry, Councillor, I've given you the assurance that we would be doing that.
Fantastic. So it will be done and completed before June?
Well, we need to be
rather than initiated by June?
We need to be looking at it before June.
Well before June, probably this year, I would have thought. But anyway, if we're to include it in any financial assessment for the broader impact on rates increases, given the financial pressures on council. So I would hope that will be part of the financial assessment that staff will be bringing back to this council before we set or adjust any rates increases for the next financial year. My other point is just in relation to the comment about revoking introductory bylaw. I was wondering if you could explain that. What's the introductory bylaw?
For you, Mr. Chair, it's part of our existing bylaw, and that was, I guess, the way that we structured the bylaw, or effectively several of the individual bylaws were different chapters of our overall consolidated bylaw, and this was an introductory chapter. We sort of moved away from the way of formatting things, and as a result, that introductory thing needs to be updated or potentially removed entirely. So yeah, we have had conversations previously with councillors about doing that.
So that's revoking the introductory chapter of the general bylaw, or just trying to get...
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Okay, so it's not, I'm just concerned that the way it was worded, it sounded like the bylaw was called the introductory bylaw.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure technically whether that's the case or not, but it's, yeah, anyway, it's a part of the bylaw which is no longer required.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillor Dakey, and then I've got Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, the Chair. Comment around Plan Change 81. For Richmond, we've got Richmond South Stormwater Program, and we've also got the Richmond Central Stormwater Program. Plan Change 81 and the stormwater programs are tied together more closely than we'd want them to be. The timing of the projects and the amount of information that's going to have to cross. For example, we can't move forward with Plan Change 81. We don't have a clear idea of stormwater. We can't move ahead for stormwater if we don't have a clear idea of what the growth loading will be on that infrastructure. So I guess what I picked up in Plan Change 81 the other day was a bit shocking, that there's a bit of a lapse between sort of where we're at, information sharing. So I guess I want to know that both those, we're not going to get to a point where these three different plans are compromised by lack of information sharing across the different plans. So that's just my query there.
Through the chair, there is a piece of work that's we've started at the moment is to bring some of that stuff together through the FDS implementation board and to have that infrastructure lined up with what's planned for growth. And so there is a little bit of piecework to bring that a little bit more aligned, but South is pretty well aligned, infrastructure versus when we're planning for growth. And we just need to be obviously aware of capital budgets, changes and recasting and stuff like that to make sure these are still effective going forward.
All right, Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've changed my mind on what I was going to comment on, but just to comment now on the joint regional public transport plan and the regional land transport. Despite the earlier discussion, it's really good that we have managed to get those done, and just appreciate the work that went by both elected members and staff in getting those done, and puts us in a good place by and large going forward. So thank you to all those people for the work they've done around many of the things that are listed in this long list, but yeah, they particularly just want to appreciate will be useful information for the joint regional land transport plan going forward around speed management anyway, and same with public transport as we look to make improvements and change. So thank you.
Thank you for that. No other questions. I'll be looking for a mover. Councillor Dowling, you happy to move to receipt of the report? And seconder, Councillor Dakey. No other questions. I'll put the report, the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Could I indulge Councillor Hill? Could you help us with closing carried here, please? No. Just yeah, if you could on the here, just before you start, Councillor, just a quick comment on the hearing.
So if you recall, we at the last stretching policy meeting, there was an agreement to form an advisory group around heritage buildings. So I've been talking to the Waimea Historical Society, just keeping up to date. This whole movement with central government might lead to some national policy statement around this. So I've had a conversation for that team to reach out and see if there are interested parties, but I've put that on hold until we get some clarity, which we think, with fingers crossed, we're going to get either before Christmas or after Christmas around the national. And this is driven really by Wellington, I think, where they want to get buildings off the heritage register. So I think it's going to fast track some of that, meaning we don't need to do a plan change. That's the intent, I think. But again, we've not had any clear direction as yet on that.
Thank you for that. And I'll go back to Councillor Hill.
All done. Kara ki tātou, tawhiri mā ngā hua o te tai ao, mai a papa tuanu ki o tākoutou nei, kia rangi nui e tū iho nei, tūturu whakamaua, kia tīna, hui e, tai kia. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for your attendance. I think you've got 23 minutes before